The Department of Homeland Security, if you can even call it that, has a secretary called Alejandro Mayorkas. He's been impeached by the United States House of Representatives, and he was asked by even NBC, why won't he take executive action to secure the border? Listen.
Why not take executive action right now? Why not do more right now to address this?
What executive action are you suggesting that we take that we haven't taken that would survive court scrutiny?
What could we possibly do? It's just a big old mystery. For more on this, let's bring in Congressman Chip Roy, represents Texas, a border state, and their 21st Congressional District. Sir, good to have you back with us. Thank you.
Great to be on, Ben. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well. When Secretary Mayorkas says he doesn't know what executive actions he could take, is he lying?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last. He lied to me under oath when he declared to the world that they were doing everything they could to have operational control of the border, that they, in fact, had operational control of the border. Then he tried to play games with the definition and went and said something different in another committee. All of this has been done on purpose to try to obfuscate the truth, that they have no intention on enforcing the law. Now, I will say it is nevertheless important that we need to actually change the laws to both force an administration like this one to follow the law, but also to supplement and support whatever we will hopefully be able to achieve under President Trump if he is elected in November, and work hard to do that. You got to change the laws because there's been bad decisions by courts.
Yeah.
There's been abuses of the law. So we need to do that. But he is dead wrong and lying when he says they can't take action right now to stop the abuse of parole and asylum, releasing people into the United States on purpose, including Chinese foreign nationals, 24,000 since October 1 that have been apprehended, and releasing people from all over the world and endangering Americans, including the parolee that killed Laken Riley and other parolees that have killed Americans, raped, murdered, robbed, and undermined the security of the American people.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the first 100 days of the Biden administration, he imposed 100 executive orders designed to weaken our immigration system and to allow all of this to happen. That includes ICE arrests dropping by more than 60% during just the first 100 days of his presidency. They got rid of travel bans from all sorts of countries that were on our terror watch lists. And they expanded the types of people who are eligible for so-called humanitarian protections and people who are getting immigration benefits. There are clearly executive actions here, a long chain of them. NBC might not be familiar with them, but a long chain of them that they could impose right now that would help to make this situation a lot better.
Yeah, no question. They're doing it on purpose, and they're dumping people into the United States, and they've found every mechanism by which they can do it under the abuse of our legal system. So everybody understands the law as it is written requires us to control the border and not let people in without either papers or a legitimate claim to asylum, which is based upon having a legitimate fear of persecution for your religious or political beliefs. We're not doing that. We're using these exceptions in the code to dump people in the United States intentionally. Now, I think it's really important, though, to note this is all still happening with funding from Republicans. Republicans have voted to continue to fund this stuff without making him stop it. So when the founders gave us the power of the purse, we're supposed to use it when you have a president violating the law. We have refused to do that. So we're funding an out-of-control DHS, a DHS secretary that ignores the law willfully, and a president who doesn't care.
Right. So this is one of the areas where sometimes I hear some apologists for why the Congress hasn't passed meaningful border legislation. They say, well, it doesn't matter because Biden wouldn't follow the law anyway, even if new laws were imposed on his administration. But that said, what you just laid out is a perfect example of an area where they couldn't squirm out of it, Congressman Chip Roy. Because if you defund, say, the NGOs that are being used to traffic human beings into our country, they're out of luck. They don't have money flowing to them. But Republicans keep making that happen, don't they?
Yeah, that's certainly correct. We're facilitating the trade. We are funding the United Nations that is moving people up through the Darien Gap and through Mexico, producing paperwork and all the instructions and funding the NGOs that are then funneling people into the United States. We're doing that. And by the way, in this funding bill this weekend, we funded more NGOs that are both going to be moving refugees around the world, some of whom will end up in the United States in violation of all that we hold dear in terms of moving people in the United States, but also funding the NGOs that are undermining Israel and the IDF and will get money to Hamas. I know that's a different issue, but it's all related. We keep writing the check we keep funding the entities that are against us, and we're not requiring the administration to follow the law and adhere to change.
Okay, so let me turn my attention now to the guy who's in charge in the House, Speaker Mike Johnson, and your thoughts on what he's up to, because he's been making the claim that he's just been dealt a really tough hand. The margins are too small. He can't achieve the things that the base wants him to achieve, like securing the border. But I hear him say stuff like that, and I look specifically at his decision to be the tie-breaking vote to extend warrantless surveillance of American citizens. Right. He didn't have to do that. He could have sided with imposing a warrant requirement, but he didn't. When you hear him say that, well, he's just got tight margins, what do you make of that claim?
Well, I think that the speaker is doing what he believes he wants to do, fund Ukraine. He decided that was more important than dealing with the border. He decided it was more important to pass FISA without the warrant protections than to pass it with the warrant protections. As you noted, he cast the tie-breaking vote effectively as the speaker, which speakers are not traditionally prone to do, meaning he was the one that helped get it to the number that got it passed, blocked from being passed to protect Americans. But importantly, this whole idea, like, quote, we have a razor-thin majority. I heard former President Trump making that point yesterday. Let me ask you a question. What is the majority in the Senate? Right? Chuck Schumer has a Senate that is, I believe, 52-48. And by the way, it takes 60 to get anything done in the Senate, so it requires Republicans. Yet somehow the fact that we have a, quote, razor-thin majority in the House, which, by the way, by unfortunately some of my New York colleagues kicking out George Santos. And so now because we have, quote, only a two-seat majority in the House, we can't get stuff done. But the Senate seems to get everything they want to get done. Chuck Schumer was gleeful on the floor of the Senate this week that they got everything they
Signal disrupted a little bit.
Go to Hamas.
Yeah.
They got everything they wanted.
Yeah, so just you broke up just a little bit there, but as you pointed out, you said Chuck Schumer was gleeful about all the things they got, and I heard you also say that not only is Israel getting money, but Hamas is getting money, and that makes no sense whatsoever. Why are we funding both sides of a war yet again?
It makes no sense, and everybody should have to understand that the money is, in fact,
okay,
will, in fact, end up in the hands of Hamas.
Yeah, no, that's right, and it's deeply frustrating. I just saw a few moments ago a tweet from one of your colleagues, Thomas Massie. He was on the floor of the House on Saturday and filmed a short video of Democrats waving the Ukrainian flag and chanting "Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine" as they passed a $95 billion spending package that included no protections for our collapsing country. Now, he says he just reported that the House Sergeant-at-Arms is now attempting to fine him, I believe, $500 unless he takes that post down because he violated House rules by filming a video on the floor. And yet he points out that every single person who's waving a foreign flag on the floor of the House is in violation. Doesn't the House Sergeant-at-Arms work for Mike Johnson? Why aren't the people waving Ukrainian flags being fined?
Yeah, I do believe that the speaker should tell the Sergeant-at-Arms to back off. Look, I do believe in maintaining a certain level of decorum, and if you're going to enforce it one way, you kind of have to force it across the board.
Yeah.
If they were going to be very clear about this with Ukraine, then okay, fine. Say you can't have a video filmed on the floor of the House. That is technically one of our rules.
Sure.
Massie, myself, we were being charged fines, or at least they tried to fine us, if we didn't wear a mask on the floor 3 years ago. Now we're sitting down there on the floor, and all of this breaks out with the flags. And we were all enraged that this would happen on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. And I went over to the speaker and I said, Mike, you get this to end. And I mean, like right now, if you go look back at the tape, you'll see me run to the microphone. And I told the Democrats, I can't kill this bill, but I can damn well force about 3 or 4 more votes. And I'm going to make you miss all of your precious flights for your fundraisers if you don't get those Ukraine flags and shove them back in your pocket. We were able to try to kill that on the floor, but the damage had already been done. On the floor of the U.S. House, Ukraine flags were being waved around while hardworking Americans are left holding the bag, unable to afford their groceries and their livelihoods and be able to go to work and drive to work and pay for their kids. And our borders are wide open and Americans are dying. And we send $100 billion overseas unpaid for, including money for Hamas. So Thomas Massie is right. I hope he pushes back on the Sergeant-at-Arms. And I hope the speaker will say, look, we're not going to fine Thomas Massie, but we're going to enforce decorum going forward. There'll be no more flags. And then maybe we can listen about whether we're concerned about a recording of this horrific act by members of Congress.
Now, we've got a lot of words of judgment for Congress, but obviously there are people there like yourself who are still trying to fight the good fight in the face of overwhelming odds. I have to ask you, Congressman, why is Congress the way it is? My reaction this weekend, I'll be completely honest with you, I said it Monday when I got on the air, I just felt totally disheartened by what I saw. They're spending money on other countries, not on their own. They're abandoning us. They're waving foreign flags on the floor. We have hundreds of thousands of people dying to fentanyl and the cartels. The borders are collapsing. I don't need to list all the horribles. We all know them. But I see all of that, and I think this is just disgraceful, and they don't care about us. They don't give a damn about us. That's the message that I got this weekend. Why? How did it get this way?
Well, I'll put it this way. First of all, we have the worst form of government except for all the others, right, as they say. And you watch the sausage get made, and you kind of throw your hands up, and you get frustrated. I do. I mean, I was down there. I mean, I'm devoting my life. I'm away from my family. I'm missing stuff with my kids. I've got a family member, my grandma, who's sick right now. I'm trying to get back to see her. I mean, it is what it is, but I signed up for this to serve my country, and I go there and I fight because I want to change things. So this is happening on my watch, right? I go down in the history books as a member of the Congress that has been racking up debt at extraordinary numbers that did exactly what you saw happen on the floor of the House. But I'll just tell you this. The reason it happens is that members of Congress ultimately are more beholden to the donor class and the financial interest than the 750,000 people that they represent. And they don't listen to the people at home, and they don't honor what they said they would do when they get to D.C. because they want to, be liked by their colleagues. And I got to be honest with you. I care more about being liked at home than I do about being liked, in the well of the House.
Yeah.
And I think too many of my colleagues view it the other way. They want to fit in the club. They don't want to offend. And look, I have a lot of great friends in Congress that I've made over the last 4 or 5 years. But my duty is to the Constitution and to my constituents. And more of my colleagues need to understand that and fundamentally recognize, are you willing to put it on the line? And too many Republicans,
yes,
half of Republicans, I would tell you, they're too afraid to fight, and they're frankly complicit in a lot of the things that they'll complain about Democrats. So here's the good news. We're moving in the right direction.
Right.
We've got more numbers there. 55 members voted against the rule. A majority of Republicans voted against Ukraine. Elise Stefanik voted against Ukraine. It was a majority. People need to remember that. We just need a bigger and stronger conservative majority.
Yeah, the majority of the Republicans voted against this. That's true. And then finally, the Speaker of the House, he said that he had a change of hearts on both the warrantless surveillance of Americans and on prioritizing the border over Ukraine funding because of classified briefings that he received. He goes into that skiff, he gets the classified briefing, he comes out and he realizes he's got to side against the American people. What is that? How does the intel community hold so much sway over Speaker Johnson based on his own admission?
Well, he can speak for himself, but I'll tell you this is a typical way that things happen in Washington. Notice that everything that we've done this year that's been not good has been done in the name of defense. We violated the caps that we set to freeze spending and check spending because supposedly it would hurt defense. We didn't pass warrant protections because it supposedly would hurt intelligence, i.e. defense. We just voted for $100 billion unpaid for with no border security, ironically, in the name of, quote, defense. This is always the excuse. They go down into the skiff. That is the place where you receive intelligence briefings. And then they come out and they say, well, I can't tell you, but just trust me. If we don't do this thing, bad stuff will happen. And then they govern by fear. And that gives you the excuse to take the easy way out, which is to spend money we don't have in the name of doing something that sounds good to a lot of people while not making the hard decisions to constrain spending, focus on America first, and then, have a strong military for peace through strength, but not endless wars in which we rack up $8.5 trillion of debt over the last 25 years with ghost budgeting while we don't pay for war. And last point I'll make, when all of these people in the donor class and the rich folks in the Wall Street Journal editorial board, when they want to agree to make for a bill that would increase the top marginal rate to 50% to pay for these wars, then come knock on my door arguing for the damn wars.
Yeah, that's for sure. George Orwell had a room in 1984 called Room 101. That's where people went in, they got their minds changed because they were beaten into submission. You should hang the words Room 101 right over the skiff, wherever that is, inside the Congress.
Good idea.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens. Their minds change. Chip Roy, Congressman, great to talk to you as always, sir. Thank you very much.